my diet was unhealthy, and the way it was manifesting that was in all the excess flesh that I had. I didn't look at weight loss in a sense of, oh, I'm fat, I need to lose weight, or oh, I also thought about it in a mainly thought about it internally. What is this fat doing to my organs? Are my organs able to function properly with the things that I've been consuming? And I quickly found out in doing research that when you have excess flesh or excess weight on your body, you're doing your body a disservice, because it does affect you internally. It does affect you on a cellular level. And so I am pleased to invite Sister Gabrielle Phillips, herbalist Gabrielle Phillips, onto the live feed. So bear with me as I turn the camera this way. Again, share the video.
And wait, here, just bring it up.
Okay, I'm gonna scoot over to. Okay.
Oh no, I move over because you still kind of.
We're in the middle. Oh, okay. I'm gonna go this way.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Okay. This is herbalist Sister Gabrielle Phillips, Mother's Herbal Instinct. She works very closely with Trilogy, as her husband is the founder of Trilogy. And so they established really good meal plans and things for your specific and personal needs. So we're going to go ahead and have her chime in on what we were just talking about, sugar.
Okay. Peace and blessings, you guys. Like she didn't tell y'all, I'm her cousin.
She is my cousin.
Like my cousin stated, we are streaming from multiple streams. My YouTube, my Facebook, as well as. So please bear with me, because we had a proper introduction on this one, but this one on the YouTube and the Facebook, we kind of just got thrown in there. But everybody who subscribed to my channel, they're kind of used to that. So we was having technical difficulties. That's kind of weird. Let me see. How's that? I don't know, but you can't really see you.
I can see. I do need to scoot over.
Okay, but then you can't see the Trilogy either. Okay, wait. Sorry. Hold on just a moment, y'all. Because I want to make sure as many people as possible are able to get access to the information that I'm going to come across. Well, that I'm going to bring to you guys today. And it's kind of, I got a paper down here, but I don't really know where to start.
So we're not scripted. Usually, I'll have like a printout of questions that I plan to ask the guests. But because Sister Gabby and I talk so regularly about these things and about health, we are just planning to have a dialogue and invite you into the dialogue about sugar. So if you want to join the dialogue, I see a question. And shalom, sisters. Shalom, Sister Kristen. Bless you.
Y'all.
Some of the things that are going to be talked about are they may not be pleasant to the ears. Sister Gabby over the years has told me many things that aren't pleasant to the ears, but it's truth. And I never reject it. It may sound strange at first. She's like, it'll be like mid-bite. I'll be biting something and she'll be like, you shouldn't be eating that because such and such and such. And I'm like, okay.
And she'd be like, should I
finish or should I spit it out? So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to have a dialogue about sugar. And she has so much wisdom and so much knowledge that we can do that, because for anybody who has ever asked Sister Gabby a question about wellness and, herbal wellness, it's so much in there that she's able to just pull from that bank and give you the wisdom that she has studied over the years. I also, since I've been studying, I always go to her with the things that I'm learning just to confirm that those are accurate. And she'll either tell me yay or nay, like, you need to trash that because this, or right, that's spot on. So she's just a wealth of information, a wealth of knowledge, and I'm sure not everything will be covered in this video. But
I had to do a part 2 on the sugar because it's intense.
even as we were talking about it earlier today, just kind of going through like some of the things that I had learned and the things that she was going to teach on this live feed, we were like, we should have recorded this because it was like a show before the show, and it was jam packed of information. I like she's going to mention something about natural sugars that I didn't know. I thought, a natural sugar was something that she'll get to it. So we're gonna start. So on that note, what is sugar? Because there's refined sugar and then there's what they call natural sugars. Are all sugars bad for you, or are there some sugars that are good for you? Can you address that before we go forward?
Okay, so natural sugar is not bad for you. In fact, a lot of the fruits that we consume have natural sugar in there, which we would know as fructose. The difference between consuming natural sugar or natural fructose is because of its makeup and how it is comprised within the food that you eat. The body has a natural process to be able to break down the fructose, meaning when you're eating it or you're getting it from a natural source, you're not going to have to worry about a sugar overload versus when you're getting it from a unnatural source, which would be your refined sugars or your sugars like we were just, you just brought up. We can go ahead and go over that now, which causes most people to feel like, okay, well, if I get coconut sugar, that's good.
That was me.
It's not the sugar cane, that SH sugar.
Right.
Because it's got the organic symbol.
Good, y'all.
It's got the organic symbol, right? And it's got the non-GMO symbol, and it got vegan on there. And it got it's halal and it's kosher, for our Islamic brothers and sisters.
And
I don't even know if that goes with that. That don't go with
that.
Forgive me. But because it has all those symbols, we're like, okay, this is good. I don't, it's not the SH, that white and pink package we grew up on in the hood and stuff.
Date sugar.
And then the blue sugar. So those, we think that it's fine. Coconut sugar, date sugar, palm sugar, any sugar made from a natural food. We think that that's a good substitute. But in all actuality, it's not. It's still considered the same. It's still considered as harmful as high fructose corn syrup. Which is 50% fructose. It is 50% sugar. So anytime you get that in your system, outside of it actually being in the natural produce that you're consuming, it's going to overload your liver. Okay? Meaning it's not going to have the fiber that it needs to be able to properly process it or break it down. And that's what's a part of the process of breaking the fructose down. So when you actually put it in there, what you're getting is you're getting high concentrated amounts of fructose. Even in your date sugar and your coconut sugar, you're still getting the same amount. And so it's just as harmful as consuming just the raw cane sugar. And so that's like the kind of wordplay that I guess the food industry has pulled over us.
Natural.
Yeah. So, and calling it natural because it comes from the natural food. But you have to remember, if it's natural, that means it's in its natural state. Anytime you have to remove something out of its natural state, it's no longer natural and it becomes toxic, which we've talked about that, with other things. But this is the same. It's the same process. It's the same general rule. If you want to gain the benefits from a certain food, a certain drink, a certain herb, you have to consume it in its natural raw form for you to get the same amount of benefits, because in its raw form, it has the fiber. It has the proteins. It has all the components that's needed for the sugar to properly move through your system. When it doesn't have that, then that's when it's not good. And so that's kind of what the food industry has played. It's like a word play on our mind
Because we see natural and organic, and we're like, this must be good for me because it's natural and organic.
Even your agave syrup, I don't recommend it. That's not going to be a natural sugar that I would recommend for you guys because it's not natural anymore. It has to go through a process. Anytime something has to go through a manufacturing process, it's not. Just don't do it. You might as well go grow your agave plant. You go through the process.
Yeah.
If you want the most natural process of any type of sweetener that you're going to get is honey. It's already processed by the stomach of the bees.
And that makes sense because I watched how sugarcane is processed. And they roll it through this thing to get out all the juices, the natural juices, which is fine at that stage. But then they take it a step further.
Yes.
And they boil out all the bad stuff.
Oh, hand me that, because I'm gonna show you what it looks like.
They boil out all of the, the bad stuff. They say they clean it, and then right after that, they take it and they boil it to an even hotter temperature.
It's good that you mentioned that, because what you're talking about, I actually say, you know what? I'm gonna print off a picture of the actual sugar cane plant, so that you guys can see that what I'm saying is not just something I'm making it up. No,
because
this is actually what's going on. If you actually see how these things are processed, then you'll see that by the time it gets to the end of the factory plant, it's pretty much decimated the whole benefit that you would have ever received from it.
Because they boil it twice. They boil it to the point where it gets gooey and sticky. That's the last one, and then they wait till it crystallizes. And like you said, all the nutrients is stripped from the
all
sugar.
The enzymes that you would have gotten from it is completely destroyed. Which we're going to talk about that too. If you boil past or you heat up food past 212 degrees, it's destroyed all of the enzymes in it. And enzymes, people rarely know and understand that enzymes is the key to life. If you don't have any enzymes, you're dead. That is what fuels you. And so with consuming anything that's been through a plant, that's been processed, you run the chance of getting food that's depleted of any type of value.
Yes, ma'am. So in just going off of what you just said and putting that into your body, how does that affect your body? Does it have, I believe it has an adverse effect, just from the things that we've talked about and the things that I've read. What are the effects of putting something like that into your body?
The effects of putting dead food in you?
Well, not just dead food, but the sugar, like putting that dead sugar, it's not living, it's stripped of all of its minerals, it's stripped of all of its nutrients. So eating sugar, consuming sugar, what is that doing to your body? What are the effects?
So we talked about consuming sugar in high amounts, how the body is not able to process it because it doesn't have the fiber that's supposed to slow the process down. What the fiber does is it slows the amount of fructose that enters into your liver. You know, our livers are processing. That's like our little factory. Okay, so what happens is when you do these large amounts of sugar going in your system, it creates sickness. And one of the main sicknesses that you normally have happens in the liver. I'm trying to get to this picture. Matter of fact, there's a couple of pictures. Hold that. And these is the sugar canes. This is what she was just talking about. But what happens is when you hit large amounts of sugar, now you're starting to see that statistics that I've come across is that 31% of adults are suffering from fatty cirrhosis of the liver. Now, you know where cirrhosis comes from. It's, the overconsumption of alcohol. But now it's the epidemic has happened to where sugar has become such an epidemic that now people are no longer getting sick or liver disease because of liquor. They're getting sick with liver disease because of sugar, too much sugar. And so you have a 31% increase in adults, and you have a 13% increase in children, which is set to continue to keep rising because almost everything you buy has high fructose corn syrup in it. Almost every single thing you buy has it in there. because everything that they're doing now is processed. They're processing everything. And so this is what she was just talking about, the sugar plant. This is where they put the sugars, the sugar. Once it comes from the sugar cane, these are the stalls where they're boiled. This is just one of the forms. And then you have somebody over here pressing. Okay, so I don't know if y'all can see that. I'm gonna just keep bringing it from camera to camera. But I printed these pictures off because I was telling my cousin, I'm gonna talk to you guys today from a different angle to stimulate some thought, to cause you guys to really second guess, not second guess, but really consider whether or not you really need to involve sugar outside of its natural form within your diet. So that's one of the sugar meals, and this is what the sugar plants used to look like. This is one of the sugar plants in Paris in 1667. I'll show this one first. And you guys, if you want to know this information after the video, you feel free to email me. Oh, that's kind of crooked. Okay, if y'all can see, I tried. You can email me at mothersoverinstincts@gmail.com.
Also, if you have questions afterwards, you can email
where I can give you the references so that you guys can go look at this. Because what I'm going to say tonight is really going to stimulate thought. It's really going to cause you to really decide whether or not sugar needs to be a part of your home. Okay? I know we all got our little sugar cravings and things like that. But I guarantee after what you hear tonight, I'm hoping that it'll cause you to overpower those sugar demons.
Addictions. Yeah.
These are all, now this is a sugar plant. Okay. Oh, shoot. Can you see that? This right here is a sugar plant. It's kind of blurry, guys. I apologize. But I was like, hey, this may come up. Let me print these pictures off. And it came up. I forgot.
It came up. So they roll that. They actually take the.
This is the harvest. This is them harvesting the sugar cane stalks. Okay. These are sugar cane stalks. Okay. And so since showing you guys these pictures, I think this is the perfect time to go ahead and open with the different perspective, the different way that I wanted to come and bring onto you the importance of trying to remove sugar toxicity from our community of people, from people in general, everybody who is here in the Americas, anywhere, because really sugar is not good for anybody. But what I'm going to uncover tonight is it's definitely not good for our people, African Americans. Yeah. And one of the melanated people, I said African American, didn't I? Oh, I got you. You got me. Okay. But for those of you who subscribe as African American, the effects of sugar is detrimental to our people, especially our women. Okay. It's very detrimental to our men as well. For those of you who don't know, I could just throw out it will sterilize you, men. It will make it very difficult. It will make it very difficult to be at optimum health, optimum ability to fertilize, to produce male children. I talk about this all the time. There's such an increase of female children born, and this is a setup. It's a setup. I'm a female. I love female children, but I'm saying they're trying to deplete. They're trying to deplete and limit the amount of males born, and so sugar is a culprit of that. Okay, and so. All right, let's go.
So when you eat sugar, and this is something that I have been researching, and we had talked about it earlier. So not just sugar, but when you eat anything that is unhealthy or that your body cannot recognize or whatever. So like this stuff that you're eating, your body is using it as fuel, especially sugar. So it's coating your cell
Yes.
And your cell has, a respiratory system of its own. Like you were saying, it has its own heart.
It has its own body.
Each cell, each individual
It's a body
cell.
within a body.
So when you consume foods like sugar, and I don't know if you've ever noticed when you eat sugar, you feel all like drained and heavy. It's because that stuff has, when it goes into your body, it coats your cell. And so I wanted to mention that because you had said something about it affects you being sterile. Well, these cells that are now coated in sugar are what's supposed to be fueling your body to be in optimum health, and you can't be in optimum health with your cells functioning at half or less capacity. So,
correct.
Yes, and she said correct. So
the whole point of life is to be able to function at your optimum. Like you should be able to just at your full potential. Your full potential. You should never just be eating just to get by. Oh, just to keep my eyes open. No, and a lot of us eat for pleasure, like we talked about earlier. We're eating for pleasure and we're not eating to live. And, for those of you who have ever come across Dr. Sebi or Dr. Sebi, this is something that he talked about a lot within the community. This is something that he talked about a lot with people in general. Is that you want to make sure that you're putting foods in your system that's going to fuel you, to keep you here, to live longer. You're eating to live another day. Okay. And so it's the same principle. It's the same principle. Whatever you put in your body, there used to be a saying, like when we were younger, you are what you eat.
Yeah. And it's so true.
And it is true now. It is very true now. And so now you're starting to see what they mean by it. But the detriment to it is it normally takes us till we get 30, then we get 40, then we get 50 to decide that, oh, shoot, I should eat better. But no, you should have been eating better all along. How many enzymes have you lost? Let me tell you something. When you eat food that has no enzymes in it, remember, I told y'all enzymes is the key to life. It's the vital force of living. Enzymes are so vital and it's so important and it's so intricate and it's so complicated to explain that even those who have discovered enzymes, they don't even understand how it works. They said, I don't know exactly what makes it function, or I know what makes it function. The Most High. It's the Most High. It's his breath. It's his energy. But they're describing it as enzymes. It's like, I don't know what it is. There's a biological and there's a chemical process that goes on. I can only explain the chemical. This is coming from I have his information. So if you want to know who I'm talking about, but this is a doctor who was researching and actually going and delving into enzymatic function and how the body is supposed to operate. But he said, I understand the chemical process of it, but there's something behind the biological that's unseen. I don't know what makes it function. And so the Most High is what's unseen. The Most High is what's making it function. And so, the creator of all things. And so when you eat something that doesn't have any enzymes in it at all, your body has to take from its natural force, its natural life energy to be able to process that food. And remember, I made this statement before that when you run out of your enzymes, which is the natural, every male, every woman, every living thing on this planet, on this earth, has a set amount of enzymes or energy within your body. Every last one of you are born with a set amount. Once you run out of that, which is what we call enzymes, once you run out of that, you expire. You're done. So think about this. If you eat food that has no enzymes in it at all, your body has to take from its own natural source, its own natural energy that was given to it by at the moment you start breathing, at the moment of conception, at the moment you enter into this life. It has to take from that energy. Every single time you consume dead food, every single time you consume fatty, processed, sugar-filled food, because none of that has enzymes in it. So you're actually depleting your natural source that's keeping you alive by the food that you eat. So I hope that answers your question. There's a dramatic impact that it has on your body. You want to make sure you're putting food in your body that's full of enzymes so that it never has to take from the natural life source, that natural energy or the enzymes, what we call it.
Well, that makes a lot of sense too, because in the research that I was doing, it talked about how the main source of our cause of all of these diseases and illnesses is sugar. So if you have whatever, if you're consuming lots of sugar, you're feeding whatever disease or illness is inside of you. And so I found that interesting because people try to put it on other things, but it's the sugar. It's the dead foods.
It's the sugar. It's definitely the sugar. And this is why I want to go ahead and go here from the pictures that I just shared with you all, because this is a different perspective that I want to bring to you all, because of course all of us have heard sugar has detriment effects to the brain. Sugar causes behavioral issues in children. We all know those things. Sugar, it makes you depressed. Sugar is another form. It causes another form of cirrhosis. What we just went over. We all know these things. But from this perspective, I don't believe everyone knows that I'm going to bring to you guys today, which is what caused and what fueled this sugar epidemic. Because there was a point in time where sugar was non-existent. We didn't it was no need for sugar. But living in this society now, sugar runs everything. You know what I mean? Sugar has become a commodity. You know what I mean? Back then, okay, this is a funny. Back then, women were a commodity. You know what I mean? That's
now it's sugar because it brings pleasure.
So I'm saying, you see how it's just changed.
Yes, ma'am.
So sugar is now a commodity when it never was. I want you guys to get that in your mind, like get that embedded, because what I'm about to say, you're going to understand why I said that. It was never a commodity, ever. And we need to get out of it. We need to stop supporting this commodity now. Okay. And hopefully what I'm about to say is going to make you stop supporting this commodity.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
And so my question that I posed was, how did sugar even become an epidemic? Because we know the different effects of sugar. We know it's in everything, and we know it's in every food, every drink.
Everything.
It's in everything. They probably got sugar statues, and
oh my goodness.
I'm just saying they got sugar candy.
Probably like those sugar rock candy.
Yeah.
Things like
that.
It's
in everything. But how? How did it become an epidemic? I'm gonna tell you how. Are y'all ready?
Yes. Let's go. I'm ready.
I'm gonna tell you how right now. Okay. So sugar became a commodity, a commodity through slavery. Okay. Wow. How many of you guys knew that? Slavery is where sugar boomed. Okay. A lot of us only understand, and a lot of us know that slavery was fueled by cotton, right? We know slavery was fueled by greed. Okay. By the European countries. It was fueled by greed. Okay. And so what happened was when the Europeans from Britain, you had Paris, you had the Spaniards, you had different European nations overseas that went and visited. They went and visited a country. I got all these papers and documents over here. But like I said, if you want the information that I'm sharing to you, you email me, or you can email Sister Crystal or Trilogy. And I have the documents and I have the information that you guys can go back and look behind this, because I want you to. But it was some European nations that they visited another nation. And they visited an island, which is a warm climate island that had sugar cane. And they tasted it. And they was like, I like that. I need to get some, we need to get some more of that. Okay. So what happens is the European nations end up beginning only the high class. Remember, it's only the high class wanted the sugar. And so it was only available to the very wealthy, only available to the very wealthy. Well, what ended up happening was they began to get greedy. They went to visit Brazil. They got addicted. And so they needed to find a way to fuel their addiction. And when they discovered that the land was very fertile in Brazil and it was able to cultivate the sugar cane, they began to plant it. They began to plant it and see that, okay, it's cultivated here. I can start growing it here. But what happened was the greed grew. And they didn't have enough manpower to cultivate, to harvest, and to process all of the sugar cane to continue to feed their flesh. And so what ended up happening is millions and millions of Africans, whom we know as our ancestors and our people, begin to be fueled from Africa to feed their desire, to feed their addiction. They also started to see that it was no longer the wealthy that wanted the sugar, but then just the commoners started remembering, oh shoot, they started requesting the sugar as well. And so what happened was, before slavery turned brutal, before it turned into an epidemic, before it caused the Great Passage or the transatlantic slave trade, what they did was they were hiring indentured servants. These weren't our people. They were hiring indentured servants. And what they discovered was it's cheaper to just get some slaves without paying for them and cause them to do hard labor instead of purchasing or paying for somebody to come and do it. And so what happened was, we got taught that the fuel of slavery was cotton fields. But in all actuality, cotton fields were not a major, it wasn't a major epidemic worldwide. Cotton fields were only in small parts of the South. And I think it only originated in maybe three to four states. And cotton, it really didn't boom until about, I'm going to say maybe the 18th century. But sugar, this started way before. It started way before. And I actually have a graph that I wanted to show you so that you can see that what mainly the plantations were sugar plantations. I'm not sure if many of you know, but only about 4% of the slaves were transported to the Americas. Didn't know that, did you? Only 4%. So if cotton was really the fuel for slavery, which it was not, but they had to use something else to cover that up. Because if it's found out that it was sugar, then it changes the whole thing. It changes the whole perspective of slavery. Because now you see that the reason that you're able to consume sugar today is because it was built up by brutal slavery. It was built up by millions and millions of Africans being brought over here from our continent over to many islands, Barbados, the Caribbean, the South America. And I got so much. I have it on here how many people actually, I mean, the numbers were staggering. And I'm like, look, all of this for sugar. So that's why I said I want to bring it to you guys in a different perspective, because if you really knew how much it costs, if you really know the cost behind feeding your sugar craving, then maybe you think twice about consuming it. If you really knew that a lot of your ancestors died to feed an addiction of the European nations, which was sugar, then you would really think twice about consuming something that has so much blood, sweat, and tears of your own ancestors in it. Okay. And not only that, if you continue to support sugar, you're continuing to support the damage of your natural genome, your natural biological process, because sugar indeed was made fit for them. You know what I mean? But for melanated people, sugar, it has a detrimental effect on you. And so I wanted to bring out that sugar has not only, so we're no longer in, chains, bondage, physical chains, but our people are in bondage to this. Mm-hmm. So you're still kind of in bondage to what was the European addiction. You're in bondage to the sugar. Mm-hmm. So now you're like in this spiritual invisible bondage to sugar, and a lot of us don't realize it, that you're addicted to it. You gotta have your cupcakes. You gotta have your
bread,
your bread, your coconut sugar, whatever. And I wanted to bring that to light, that if we knew how the epidemic of sugar even started, then we would probably have come to a better realization of why we don't need it. The only reason that slavery got so bad was because the greed kept growing. The greed kept growing. And I'm not saying this in a manner to offend anybody or offend any other nations, because this is the truth. And the only way that you get set free, or you're able to break free of any type of bondage, whether it's a sugar addiction, whether it's a food addiction, whether it's a material addiction, is you need to understand and need to know the source. Mm-hmm. Because most of the time, for us to get free from certain things, if we find out the source, it's easier for us to let go. Versus now, I don't need to know.
Yeah, that's why I've been so big this time around on studying and researching and finding out, about the food that I'm consuming and what I'm eating. So based off of what you said, it sounds like sugar was introduced to our people through...
It was introduced to our people through slavery. Mm-hmm. Because we didn't consume sugar. Mm-hmm. We didn't consume sugar. At least in fact, no one really in the world. No one in the world consumed sugar. Sugar didn't come into play until what they call the New World. Mm-hmm. Till the New World came into existence. You know what I mean? And when you actually start understanding that there were more sugar plantations than cotton plantations, you'll start seeing that, well, what fueled the Boston Tea Party? Mm. What fueled all of these wars? When you start reading about the sugar, you're like, dang, oh my gosh, this is why this happened. Why were they guarding the tea? Why were they guarding these things? Well, I'll tell you why. Sugar. Listen, sugar was first. You know what was second? Coffee. Mm. The second most traded commodity in the world is coffee. Mm. And, of course, water is first because it takes water to make coffee. But coffee shortly became a part of what they call the trade triangle. It became a part of the trade. So what would happen is, and I have it here. Let me. Yeah. Right here, during those 3 centuries, sugar was by far the most important of the overseas commodities that accounted for 1/3 of Europe's entire economy.
Wow, 1/3.
The slavery not only produced economical benefits for the Americas, but it is what fueled the economy over in Europe. Mm. So we feel, a lot of people say America was built on the backs of the slaves. Well, I think the whole world was built on the backs, because the whole world was trading sugar. And how it kept going was they would take the process of the sugar being formed and processed and broke down. They were taking that sugar, which they called the triangle. It's on here. It's a specific name they call it. It's a specific name, and I have it highlighted. Guys, it's so many. It's so many. That's why I said this topic right here, we can talk about this again, because it was a certain triangle that formed, and they called it the triangle because once they got the sugar and they packaged it, they were able to take it over to Africa to sell to get more slaves to bring them back over. So that was the commerce. That was the commerce. Let's grow this sugar. Let's build this plantation up so we can take this sugar. And then rum came into play. Listen, guys, rum came into play with this. Your coffee came into play. For those of us who deal in scripture, there's a verse in there that talks about, and they sold you for rum and a harlot, right?
Yes, ma'am.
This is what he's talking about. They took the rum, the sugar, the coffee, and they would give it over here. They would sell it over here so that they can get more slaves to create more plantations. So this was the perspective that I wanted to bring to you guys, was the epidemic of sugar all started and originated through greed. And it was through slavery that we have this influx of sugar in our society now.
Yes, ma'am.
And it not only has increased the European nations, but even at the same time, it is still dehumanized. It is still degrading. It is still harming our people.
Yes, ma'am.
Even though there's no more physical bondage, it's harming because now we're consuming it.
And addicted to it.
And we're addicted to the sugar.
And because it's in everything, you think that, oh, well, I'm not going to eat sugar. I'm not going to put sugar in this, or I'm not going to put sugar in that. But it's already some type of sugar in there that they've put in there. And that's why you may be addicted to that certain thing. But on the lines of us talking about sugar being introduced through slavery and sugar not being processed well in people of melanin, with melanated skin, because I know there's two types of melanin. There's your skin melanin, and then the melanin in your nervous system. But talk to us
in
about
your cells
and
all your cells.
Talk to us about the connection between sugar and genes in melanated people. What harmful effects does it have in a melanated person, like me and you?
Well, first, I'm gonna keep saying this. Okay, This is not to offend any other nationality of people, but this is to build up and it's to edify. Okay, because I have family who is of different nationalities, and their concern is for our people. Yes. You know what I mean? Because they see the dramatic effects that is taking place on our people health-wise. They see the dramatic effects that come on us from degenerative disease that has also been embedded, hereditary now. Oh, yeah. Because of sugar. Yes, but we don't know that it's because of sugar.
And one of the number one of those diseases that you mentioned is diabetes. Insulin resistance.
And that's what I'm going to talk about. This is why sugar is definitely detrimental to melanated people. Because I have it on here, because I wanted to make sure I got this form of information to you so that you can actually go back and look at it. Because a lot of us know somebody who has diabetes. Yes, some of us may even be suffering from diabetes. Yes, you know what I mean? And so let me go right here. I have it right here. So the connection between sugars and genes. This was a study that was done where they compared samples. Now, they weren't comparing samples to see, black versus white. They were actually comparing samples to see how the sugar played a part, how high blood sugar. They were trying to understand high blood sugar. But what ended up happening is when they went forward with the study, they end up finding that it is a difference between black, what they call it, or melanated genes, and white or European genes. Okay, because they started seeing that all of the melanated genes were showing up the same, and all of the European genes were showing up the same. Okay, and so I'm going to read.
But different from one another.
But different. They were the same as far as nationality, but they were different compared to another nationality. And so they were comparing blood samples taken from black and white patients led to two striking findings. Okay, first, it was apparent that there was a subset of patients in the study whose RNA profile included specific inhibition of some genes known to be involved in glucose metabolism. Okay, for those of you who don't know what RNA is, RNA is ribonucleic acid. Is a polymer that, okay, RNA is like the abbreviated form of the word that I just said. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna try to say it again. I hope I don't butcher it. Ribonucleic acid. Okay, that's what RNA is. And it is a polymeric molecule essential in various biological roles in coding, decoding, regulation, and expression of genes. Okay, RNA and DNA are nucleic acids, and along with lipids, proteins, and carbohydrates constitute the four major macromolecules essential for all known forms of life. Okay, so that's what RNA is. Now that we got what RNA is, I'm gonna finish reading the statement. Okay. In the study, whose RNA profile included specific inhibition of some genes known to be involved in glucose metabolism. Secondly, and surprisingly, when the race of these patients with inhibited glucose metabolizing genes was revealed, it was apparent that the majority of these patients were of African American descent. Okay, did you understand what I said? You probably didn't, so I'm gonna tell you. So I'm gonna keep reading. Let me read one more. I'm gonna read one more statement, and then I'm gonna explain.
I need layman terms.
I'm gonna explain what I'm saying. Okay. When comparing HAP map data on whites of European ancestry and African Americans, the genetic variations found in the UNC patients held up, with inhibition of glucose metabolizing genes being found in the African American data set. I still don't understand.
No, layman terms. I need layman terms. What does this mean?
So basically what I'm saying, I'm gonna read another statement, but basically what it's saying is the African American gene has inhibitors to glucose, meaning that we didn't consume it. So your body. So when you blah, 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 blah. So I'm getting worked up. I'm excited. Y'all. I'm excited. So when you consume something that your body the gene hasn't been turned on to process, it's going to jack you up.
Yes, ma'am. It can't process.
It can't. It can't process it. So what happens is a disease will begin to set up. Okay? So in layman's terms, you understand what I just said? I'm going to read the last statement, okay? So the answer may lie far back in history, okay? In a time when these races were not living in the same country and environment. So it has a lot to do with your country. It has a lot to do with the environment that you come from. Yes, this is why I'm always pushing on my channel. I'm always talking about go get grounded. Go outside, put your feet in the mud, get in touch with the earth. You know what I mean? Even though you're not in your homeland. Yeah. You know what I mean? This is talking about the reason that the sugar affects us differently is because it was never a part of our natural environment. And see, when we got stripped from where we were due to slavery to support the greed and the lust and the desire and the economy of the Europeans, we are suffering still from it. So y'all understand? Are y'all getting? I hope I'm breaking this down for y'all.
It makes perfect sense.
So the researchers suggest that the apparent inhibition of glucose metabolism in Blacks may be a reflection of an environment where food was scarce, or that the diet was significantly different than consumed by whites. So sugar will not affect them differently. This is why a lot of diseases that our people suffer from, we are number one. We're ranked number one.
Because we've been removed from our
We're ranked number one in every disease over here. And a lot of it has a direct, dramatic effect to sugar. Ooh, I just broke down the gene. Our bodies are not supposed to process sugar like that. We process natural sugar. If we go back to what the scripture says, we consume fruits. Honey. Where the natural sugar was in there, along with the fiber to help break down the sugar, to allow the liver to actually go through the proper process and a proper channel to be able to break down the fructose, to send it to the brain so the brain can use the fuel. Because we do know that you need fructose. You need fructose because that is what fuels the brain. The brain burns fructose. You know what I mean? And so natural fructose, natural sugar was good for us, but we never derived it, and we were never designed or created. Our genes were never turned on. The glucose metabolic gene was never turned on for us to be able to consume refined, processed, high concentrated fructose. Never was. And that's why our bodies are affected dramatically from it. This is why you have high diabetes. Well, this is why you have
diabetes,
high blood pressure. This is why you have type 2 diabetes. You know, this is why you have cirrhosis of the liver. That's no longer directly tied to alcohol, but it's directly tied to sugar. And this is why the African American or the Black or the melanated male or woman or male or female has the highest numbers.
Yes, ma'am.
Has the highest numbers on the chart because of environment. It goes back to environment where food was scarce or our diet was dramatically changing. You know, when we got over here, our food was scarce.
Oh, yes.
They didn't really feed us.
We didn't eat what
they didn't. We were eating whatever was available.
Yes, ma'am.
You know what I mean? Whatever was available, we began to eat.
Ice cream.
Who had ice cream? Like, that was not a part of our diet.
No.
None of that was. All eating ice cream is processed. All of these sweets that we eat, everything is processed.
Yeah.
Everything is processed. So even in ice cream, you go eat your ice cream. I like my coconut ice cream.
She got me on coconut.
But I haven't eaten it in so long. Like anything with sugar, like you already know. You seen me this morning.
I made pancakes this morning.
I couldn't eat it. I was like, nah. My body was just like.
It wasn't the pancake.
It wasn't the pancake.
It was the maple syrup.
It was the maple. I had to look at it. I said, is this? I don't know. I don't think that's maple syrup. They just slapped the label on there because they wouldn't have did that to me.
It tastes really sweet.
It was very sweet. It was maple fructose syrup. That's what it was. I don't know. But in essence, it says, although African populations moved geographically as they came to the United States, their genes retained a pattern more suited to their ancestors' home.
Oh, that makes sense.
People, do you hear me?
Y'all screaming it all through the camera.
People. Do you hear me? I hope you guys are here. I hope this is making sense.
It makes perfect sense.
I hope it's making a lot of sense, especially the invisible bondage. Because so many of us, we are addicted to this sugar.
And you wonder why you can't break it. And you're like, I know this is hurting me. Like, I have family members who have diabetes and who cannot break their habit, even friends.
And most of people who have diabetes are our people.
Yes, it is. And they can't seem to break the sugar, even though they know it's killing them.
You know it.
It's hard for them. And even just having a conversation with them, like, okay, you know.
You're going to lose a foot.
Yeah.
You're going to lose a toe. I went backwards. You're going to lose a toe. You're going to lose a foot. Unless you lost a foot on one leg.
Or your very life. Your body is shutting down because of the amount of sugar you're consuming. And yet you can't stop eating it. It's an addiction that is killing off our people by the masses. And I don't think when we hear diabetes, of course we relate that with sugar, but there's other diseases that we don't relate with sugar. We think it's something like heart disease. Like we were talking about earlier, they say it's from
heart disease,
fat, it's
cancer. Almost every single disease that we see is affected because of sugar consumption.
And a high.
But you know
diet.
what? They're going to bring it to you as if it's fat. But you need fat.
Yeah.
Don't let nobody listen. I don't know if anybody paid attention, but when they start coming out with all that non-fat stuff, you should pay attention to how many people start dying and falling dead and
that's true.
And getting sick. Go look.
Yeah. In that book, that what did I say?
Paleo.
The paleo
diet.
Yeah, the paleo diet. It talks about that. It talks about the heart disease and how that wasn't on the scene way back when because they had a high
because you had
fat.
high body fat.
Yes,
you had high amounts of fat that you were consuming, and see, sugar has replaced the fat.
Yes,
and that's why
with the hydrogenated oils and
sugar, the processed food. So people are no longer consuming the fats that they need to live. They're no longer consuming it because it's been replaced with sugar.
And even on what you said, how we did not consume refined sugars and things of that nature. Going back to what was mentioned in the beginning, your body doesn't need sugar to live on at all. It can create the glucose that it needs from fat and protein that you consume. But for some reason, we know the reason, but they've said that fats are the culprit. But no study has ever shown
no study at all. You won't find
it.
You won't find it. In fact, what you'll find is the people who consume the most amounts of saturated fats have clear arteries. They live longer. They look healthier.
Yes, ma'am.
Their minds aren't clouded.
Yes, ma'am.
They're able to function properly. And their teeth are good. If you look at one of my ancestors from way back then and you put us side by side, you would see that their whole facial feature. Now, my facial features are still intact. They're still similar. But if you put me next to them, or you, or any one of our, melanated ancestors next to someone from our homeland who was there, who ate and fed off of the land, what you'll find is their face is more fuller. All of their teeth fit in their mouth. One of the reasons that people's teeth, they have wisdom teeth problems is because you've lacked so much fat in your diet and you didn't develop properly because the fat got replaced with sugar. And so when the baby begins to develop off of its mother's milk, which is also supposed to be another form of a way to get high amounts of fat, if the mother is insufficient, that means her milk is going to be insufficient. That means baby's jaw structure is not going to form properly.
That's so
so this is why you have all of these teeth that don't fit in your mouth.
Yes.
Because they've substituted getting a high level intake of fat in for sugar.
Yes. And what I love about when we talk is because you've never read these books.
I've never read these books.
But in the book, it is in there that
she comes and tells me, did you know? I'm like,
she's like, yeah, I know, but I didn't read that book.
I didn't read that. It's like the most.
But that is in the book. It talks about because fat was removed from the diet, you see a smaller stature in our people, and our skulls are smaller.
And we're going to continue to get smaller as long as we keep up with this Western diet, which is fueled by sugar.
And isn't that crazy that, it's so much so, it makes so much of a difference that our teeth don't even fit in our mouth.
No, that your teeth, and you would never think that it has anything to do with dental. Like all of my teeth, I have all of my, I had all of my teeth. I have all of my teeth. I lost a wisdom tooth, but before I lost a tooth, which happened through childbirth, my body got so depleted of essential vitamins and nutrients that it began to pull from my teeth. But before I had my son, I had all of my teeth. That's why I said some of my features still are still intact from my ancestors. But you can definitely tell if you put my face next to theirs that it's fuller. All of my teeth did fit in my mouth. So I never had the wisdom tooth pain or anything like that. Yeah. So my mama, she must have did good. And my grandma, they did good.
Shout out to mom.
And grandpa and daddy, who helped
Shout out
with making sure they had the nutrients so that I could form properly. So I've never had to deal with the wisdom tooth, eruption where, people have such horrible pain, enormous pain because of the teeth coming in. And you would never think that it's all related to sugar.
Yes, ma'am.
The fat being removed from the diet and replaced with sugar is why your mouth didn't properly develop to hold all of your teeth. You're supposed to have all, what is it, 32?
Yeah, I think so.
All 32 teeth. You're supposed to have all of them. In fact, every last tooth has a function. Every last tooth is directly connected to every organ and every system in your body.
Yeah.
And if you notice, whatever organs and systems that you have issues with, that tooth will hurt. You be like, dang, my tooth hurt.
Yes,
well, you need to go get your insides checked out, because if your tooth is hurting, it's telling you directly that, okay, your liver is having trouble. And if it's your liver, then you need to start looking and thinking, okay, if you're having liver issues, you need to see, am I consuming too much sugar, especially if you're not an alcoholic. If you don't drink anything and your liver is damaged, you're having liver problems or adrenal problems, you need to start looking into, okay, what am I eating? What am I consuming? I replaced my sugar, my table sugar, with agave syrup, so I should be good. Or coconut sugar, so I should be good. I ain't getting no sugar in, But no, it's all because of sugar. But they tell us, and they put this information out here like that to deter you from looking behind sugar. Because if people knew that sugar was the reason for all of their illnesses, the economy will plummet.
Yes, ma'am.
It will plummet. And then we got to do slavery again. No.
Wait a minute.
We got to do slavery again. Get our economy back up. So it will plummet. Yes, but if you tell them it's fat, guess what's going on?
Yeah.
The non-fat industry is booming because they're being told that fat causes heart disease and fat causes high blood pressure because it's salty.
It doesn't.
What?
They tell you not to cook with butter.
How about yelling? Stop yelling and your blood pressure won't be so high. You didn't tell you that. Stop getting all mad.
Yeah, they do say that. Anger.
You know? So all of this stuff is directly connected to sugar, and it's just mind-blowing. And I hope that I helped, I hope that I helped a lot of us see that this sugar thing is really, it's bigger than, let me just get my slice of cheesecake one more time.
Yes.
Or, a donut every now and then ain't never hurt nobody. You better think twice about saying that, because remember, I told you, you're all born with a certain amount of natural energy. And anytime I tell you now, sugar does not have any enzymes. And so anytime that you're consuming sugar, it's going to deplete your natural life source. And once that is depleted, you expire. Or in other words, you die. This body can no longer function. So you choose.
It's no longer inhabitable.
So you choose what it is that you want to do. You know what I mean? So,
so as we're coming to a close, we've talked about the things. We talked about where sugar came from, what sugar is, how it has adverse effects on, our people who are melanated, and also
a dramatic effect on your genes.
Yes,
a dramatic effect on your genes.
So let's talk about, because we do have to end shortly, unfortunately. We can talk about this as long as whatever, but what are some healthy alternatives? We know coconut sugar is not date sugar. Anything refined, we know, is not healthy now. So what are some healthier options when people maybe they're trying to wean themselves off? What could be some alternative options for them? And then also, let's go into the cleanse. How do you cleanse yourself of sugar? So that's 2 questions.
Okay, so healthy alternatives.
Healthy alternatives.
Because you're weaning yourself.
If you can't do cold turkey, and because what I do is I stop when I feel myself like, okay, I'm eating too much sugar. I just stop, and like I was telling another sister, like I'll fast from it for a certain amount of time, so that I can break that addiction. But for people who, there's older people who have, eaten sugar all their life, and they're like, if I come off, I'm like,
you shaking.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You know why? It's because sugar has the same effect on your brain as cocaine and heroin.
Yes, ma'am.
And so this is why it's very hard to come off of sugar, because you're going through a certain type of high. And so you will have the shakes. It's weird, but you will have the shakes because you've been on it so long. Your body has now adapted to it. It has now made sugar its form, its source of burning fuel. That's what it's made it to be now.
And now you're having withdrawals.
And so you have withdrawals, you get extreme headaches, you get migraines, you are extremely dehydrated.
Don't discourage the people.
No, I'm just saying. Well, I'm just telling you, these are things, the symptoms you may be going through. You may be extremely dehydrated. Right? Why my tongue's so white? You know, why it tastes weird? You know,
why am I jittery?
Why can't I sleep? Sugar dramatically affects your sleep too, because it messes up the neurological processes that's going on in your brain. The sugar destroys. It destroys, man. I'm telling y'all. This is why people are going through these this is why mental illness is so high too. Which you guys should know about that. It is the sugar, it affects the mind. It affects the mind drastically. It's really sad because when you look at our people, the highest amounts of people that are inside the insane asylum are Black or melanated people. And the highest among that are the men. It's more men, more of our men in the insane asylum.
And for those of us who know the word, that's in there, madness. Yeah.
This is all sugar doing this to your mind. So this is why I say it not only affects the body physically, mentally, but it's going to affect the body spiritually, which we didn't really tap on. So just think about it. If the sugar is able to affect the mind in that way, if it's able to destroy the neurons, which I have it right here, it causes neuronal damage. It leads to inflammation. If it is able to do that to the mind, your spirit is going to be dramatically affected. It's going to be sabotaged because we know that in order to have a healthy spirit, your mind is in control.
Yeah.
Your mind is in control. I'm still going from here. So it's like, if it froze on the Trilogy,
it's on my page.
Okay, if it froze on Crystal's page, it's trying to reconnect. But if it's not, if it's affecting your mind, it's going to affect your spirit because your mind controls your spirit. You see what I mean? When it says speak life, there's power and there's life in the tongue. If your mind is all over the place, if you can't properly process and properly discern, then your spirit is going to be all over the place as well. You know what I mean? And so you have to make sure that you remove the sugar, that your mind, your mental state has the capacity to function clearly, to be able to control your spirit. You know what I mean? So it's going to affect your spirit regardless. We know in Maccabees 4, it talks about that.
Yes, ma'am.
If your mind is all over the place, how can it have rule?
It can't have reason
It can't reason. It can't tell your spirit where to go. It can't.
Yes, ma'am.
That's why sugar is an epidemic for
and
our
it
people.
Actually talks about, gluttony in Maccabees 4 about pleasure. You're eating out of pleasure, and sugar causes that, those hormones to release that cause you to feel pleasure and happiness.
Yes. So. Yes. Well, they tell you that, but sugar does the direct opposite.
After you come down, or are you talking about during?
Sugar does the direct opposite. Sugar causes depression, and people get it mixed up. They think, oh, because I'm depressed, let me eat ice cream. Yes. Or let me eat some sugar. That's going to make me happy. But it does the opposite. When you eat sugar, it lowers your serotonin levels.
Wow.
Which your serotonin levels keep you up. Does the opposite.
Wow.
Does the opposite. In fact, there is a study that shows that more people that consume sugar are the ones that deal with bouts of depression. The less people that consume sugar, you don't see depression in them.
That makes sense.
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So for people who are are trying to wean themselves, you're trying to come off of the sugar. The reason I came from this angle was so that can be a help to urge you to try to let it go. You know what I mean? To develop a disdain for it, to develop a hate. You know, the only way we overcome things or we're able to power through is when we develop a hate for something.
Yeah.
Now it's no longer, people say, my mom died of I know for sure my husband, his mom died of breast cancer. Well, that's a lie. She ain't died from breast cancer. She died from the radiation. It was the radiation that took my mother. You know what I mean? And so that right there is what was the fuel to be like, no, I hate eating unhealthy. I hate, you know what I mean?
I hate what this does.
You need something to fuel you to stop, to make you see that what you're doing or what has been done or what your family has done for years is disgusting to me now. You know what I mean? So coming from this angle was to build up that disgust, that disdain for sugar. It's directly affecting my genes. It's directly causing these diseases to come on me. It's directly causing this gene that was never supposed to be activated in my body to be activated now in my children, and then their children, and then their children, so that they can die of diabetes, they can die of stroke, they can die of high blood pressure, they can die of cardiovascular disease. I hate this. Build up that disdain for it. And that can be your cold turkey. You know what I mean? And it's willpower.
It is.
It's willpower. It's the mind to say no.
Discipline.
This is the last day that I'm consuming this, and then sticking to it. You know what I mean? But for those who actually are having a hard time, who have the shakes and the migraines and the headaches and the dehydration, for those, substitutes. If you must have a substitute for sugar, which is not going to taste the same at all, but it's fructose, because high fructose corn syrup tastes nothing like natural sugar, tastes nothing like it. In fact, when you go and you eat the natural, it's almost going to taste nasty to you.
Yes, ma'am.
I've experienced because, once you're eating natural substances, let's just go with water. Once you start drinking pure, clean water, and then you go back and you'll drink a Great Value bottle of water, you're like, what is this?
It almost tastes like a chemical. You can taste it.
It tastes like a chemical. It tastes horrible. It's like, what in the world did I used to drink this all the time. You did when your body was loaded with those toxins, and you couldn't taste it. So it's going to be the same when you go and you try to just use honey, or like I say, raw honey. It would be a good substitute, or a natural sweetener. Molasses. Most people aren't going to like molasses because it has a strong, pungent taste to it, but it's considered fructose. It's considered a sweetener. Pure maple syrup. If you have a maple tree, go tap your maple tree. Make you some maple syrup fresh. If you have a maple tree, you can do that. But if not, you need to make sure you're getting pure grade maple syrup, and that can be your substitutes. Those are the only substitutes that we really use. Honey, maple syrup, and molasses. When I'm making our jams, that's what I use. I use honey, maple syrup, or molasses. I have to come off of coconut milk. What is it? Coconut sugar. The coconut sugar, because it's really, not. Yeah. It's processed. Everything's processed. Now, if you process it, then it's fine. It's completely different from getting these things from a plant. It's completely different from getting it from a big corporation, a big manufacturer over in China somewhere, or
to like people that make date sugar,
which is child labor. Which is child labor. I'm just going to be honest about that too. Which they did over here too. They did child labor.
So, like you're saying that if you know how to make date sugar, or
if you know how to
make,
process it yourself, you can. Because to get sugar to be crystallized like that, they have to process it. It has to go to high temperatures.
Yes, ma'am.
It's just like candy making. It has to get up to about 350 degrees. Well, remember I said that once it goes past 212 degrees, any type of enzymes that were in it are destroyed. They're gone. So that means now you're eating dead food. You're eating food that now your body's going to have to take from its natural store of energy to process and break down.
Yes, ma'am. We could definitely go on and on because
yeah. But those are the substitutes.
Okay.
I would say.
Well, what about the did we do that one?
Yeah, we did that. We're here. Well, the enzyme. Let me talk about the enzymes. Let me do a little bit more of the enzymes because this is what you need to get back to. Because an enzyme-filled eating lifestyle has been replaced by sugar. It's been replaced by your processed foods and your fast foods, your quick foods. Now they cook everything, your TV dinners and everything.
Frozen.
Everything,
food.
Your frozen foods, your canned foods. The enzyme-filled eating lifestyle has been replaced with that. And so now what you have to do is you have to replace that back with the enzyme-filled eating lifestyle. And most people think, oh, okay, that means now I just need to eat a whole bunch of raw fruits and raw vegetables, and I need to go vegan, and I need to do that. No, you don't have to eat everything. You don't have to eat everything raw. In fact, there's certain foods that's high in enzymes. What you want to focus on is finding foods that are high in enzymes. Two foods for sure that are high in enzymes are avocados. But you want to watch it too because avocados are acidic.
Yes, ma'am.
They're acidic. So you want to make sure that you're not overloading. Everything is about a balance, okay? But avocado is a good fat. It's a good saturated fat. So avocados is full of enzymes. You have bananas, real bananas. I ain't talking about them Walmart bananas. You need to get a hold of some burro bananas. That's Burro, which is an alkaline banana. It's not full of all that sugar. And you need to get the little bitty bananas, the small bananas. There are some Thai bananas. Some are called Thai bananas. And then there's another variety, but they're the small ones. And you should see little black seeds on the inside of them. Those are the two types of bananas that you want to consume. Don't go to Walmart and get them bananas because them has been genetically modified. They're full of sugar. They're mushy. Even when they ain't mushy, it's like the alkaline banana. Trust me, when you open that banana and you eat that banana, you're gonna be like, this is the most tender banana. It's not mushy. It's not mushy at all. It's perfect for smoothies. It's perfect for sauteing. A lot of people like to do, what is that? The plantain.
Oh, that's what
a lot of islanders. A lot of our people who are from the islands do the plantains. You can use it for that. Banana chips, but you have to make it because it won't be processed. You know what I mean? So those are the two that's high in enzymes. Two of the foods, and there are many other foods. But like I said, whenever you can boil, it does not mean that everything has to be raw. You can cook the food, but what is cook? Because we think cooking is everything above 200 degrees. You got to fry it. Don't fry it. You got to throw it and smother it in some grease.
No.
And some oil. Don't use vegetable oil, guys. Don't use no canola oil.
No.
If you're going to cook with oil, use grapeseed oil. Okay? You can use some grapeseed oil. You can use coconut oil, and you don't need large amounts. It does not take a lot, okay? Because any other oil outside of that is hydrogenated oil, and that's a part of
and your body can't process.
It's a part of this whole little sugar game. It's a part of the processed food game, the enzymeless food. You don't want that. So, like we already discussed, the decreased enzyme levels are found in a number of chronic ailments, your arthritis, your fibromyalgia, It's because you're eating a lot of food that's depleted of enzymes. And why is that? Because it's been replaced with sugar. Everything's always going to boil back down to the sugar.
Yeah.
It's always going to go back to the sugar. And what is sugar? Acidity. It's acidic. You know, we've now entered into this like this craze where alkaline versus acid.
pH.
Your pH.
When I first met you,
which is just talking about the homeostasis of your body, right?
Yeah.
So, but acidity, like I was telling you this morning, acidity and alkalinity is energy, low energy, and high energy, which is enzymes and that's wrong here. No enzymes and enzymes. They're just different words, but it's the same thing.
Energy, no energy.
So when you eat something that don't have no enzymes, you're eating no energy food. You're eating something high energy enzymes, you're eating high energy food or alkaline food. You know what I mean? So
feeding the cells.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Sugar is acidic. It's nothing good. This refined sugar is killing us. It is killing us. Another good thing to do is fast. Fasting is really good to help with your enzyme buildup. When you begin to fast, it allows the body to give the enzymes the ability to work freely with repairing whatever may be broken. And so I'm going to tell you now, if you've been consuming sugar, you have so many organ systems, you have so many neurons within your body, so many different synapses that have been damaged. I mean, every organ, every cell has been damaged because of the sugar. Every person needs to fast.
I agree.
You need to fast. Give your body that time so that the enzymes can actually go ahead and start repairing and removing diseased tissue. That is a part of the enzymes process. This is why you want to eat food filled with enzymes so that it can contribute to your body naturally trying to heal itself, which is going to go ahead and thrust us into the herbal. What do you need to do herbally to help the process continue to go on? So we're going to talk about that. And I think I put down some more foods on here that you can eat. But no,
I didn't see.
I didn't put. But I put on here that in addition to vegetables and fruits, they're not concentrated sources of enzymes. Okay, I already said that. When produce ripens, what happens is all the enzymes they leave. So that's why I said your vegetables and your fruits is not the sole source. So eating raw vegetables, that's not the source for the enzymes. Jazz is going to understand if she's watching what I'm about to say, because I say it all the time to her. Don't you throw away my stems. Yes. don't throw away the stems. Did I tell you that this morning?
I did, but Mother Sandra had told me too.
Yeah, I be saying it at the house. Don't throw away the stems, because that is where your enzymes lie. So your broccoli stems, your kale stems, your greens, all your greens, your chard, any plant matter. Do not throw away the stems, because after the ripening process, all of the enzymes leave the fruit and they go to the stems.
Oh, wow.
They go to the stems. So a lot of the enzymes that you need in your body, you need to eat those stems. What I normally do is when I destem my greens, or I destem especially my kale, I put the kale back in the bag and I put it in the freezer. And so I like to make a kale smoothie. I got everybody liking my kale smoothie now, but I use the stems for my kale smoothie. Okay. I use the stems.
Oh, I mean, for the smoothie. Wow.
Yes, I use the stems for my kale smoothie. And if I have even kale leaves left, I put that in there too. But I don't throw away my stems. Even when I'm making greens, like if I'm making the pot of greens, I don't take them off. I cook the whole leaf. So that I can eat the stem, because the nutrients are in the stem. Okay, so keep your stems. If you need to throw it in there and put it in your blender with your smoothies, do it like that. If you need to make you a shot, they got the little green shots you can do. Don't do no wheatgrass. We can talk about that too.
Yeah.
Don't do wheatgrass. Wheatgrass is not for human consumption. Okay?
Okay.
Don't do it. You're going to be hurting. Your knees going to be hurting. Your eyes, your headache. You're going to have headaches, everything. It's not for you. It's for animals. Okay? So another source is sprouts. Bean sprouts, onion sprouts, any type of sprouts. Enzymes are high in sprouts. Okay? And then cooking some foods like root vegetables, you have to cook them because they have enzyme inhibitors. Same thing with seeds. That's why a lot of you have probably heard of, soak your seeds first before you eat them, because they have that enzyme inhibitor that's around it that keeps it from allowing it to process in your body. Mm-hmm. And the only reason it's around it is because it wants to protect the seed. So the inhibitor is there. So, okay, if I plant the seed, okay, it's going to have the nutrients it needs to grow. So that's what the inhibitor is for. That's why if you do sprouts, it breaks off the inhibitor and then you're able to consume and get enzymes. So